Hello, Poop Shoot TV. I'm back. I'm back soon with more shit. Because I love shit. Anyways, 2 books, 2 games, and a TV series today. We got a little bit of everything except a movie, but I haven't been watching that many movies lately. Hollywood's kind of turned me off with all of their nonsense, with all their political fucking barking about stuff. So it's I'm kind of not as into movies as I used to be. Certain ones, of course, I'll always watch, like an Aliens, or I'll give Star Wars a chance, but now that Disney's been ruining that, it's not a sure thing like it used to be. But there are some I'll always give the chance to. But in terms of just general movies, especially, it seems like there's hardly any comedies being made anymore. Like, what's with that? I don't know. But anyways, Hollywood sucks. First book up. Second in the Gatekeeper trilogy, Buffy the Vampire Slayer, Ghost Roads. So in this book, it picks up after, you remember in the first book, they went to Boston to the Gatekeeper's mansion where he keeps all the creatures from the other world contained, and they fought a battle there and won, and then basically they were tasked with going to find the Gatekeeper's son, because the Gatekeeper's on death's door, but only his heir can continue the Gatekeeper tradition and keep the Earth safe from these otherworld creatures. So they were tasked with going to find this guy's son. And I think Jacques is his name, the kid. I think the Gatekeeper is Jean-Marc and his son is Jacques. So he's rumored. All that they've been told is that the Sons of Entropy, who are this group that are coming after the Gatekeeper and trying to bring all these otherworld creatures to Earth and unleash hell on Earth, Jacques been kidnapped, and he believes the Sons of Entropy are the ones that did it, and he's been kidnapped and taken somewhere to Europe. So essentially what happens is the Scooby Gang is split into 2 factions. Buffy, Oz, and Angel head to Europe to try and track down Jacques, because the fastest way to get there is to travel the Ghost Roads. So the Ghost Roads are these passages in the spirit world that can connect people to different places in the world very quickly, but only those who have been touched by the supernatural can travel them. So Buffy, because she's the Slayer, Angel because he's the vampire, and Oz because he's a werewolf, right? So those 3 are almost by default the ones that need to go to Europe, whereas Giles, Willow, Xander, Cordy, they stay behind in Sunnydale to take care of all of the breaches that and the portals that keep opening up with these creatures trying to burst in from the other world. So Willow's always sealing them up with her magic and stuff like that. So, but essentially, Buffy and her crew have been led on a wild goose chase. They've been given false information because the Watchers Council has been infiltrated by Sons of Entropy spies. So the guy they were talking to, that Ian guy that was talking with Giles and then with Buffy about arranging a rental car in Europe when they went over there, he's been a spy that's infiltrated, and he's kind of keeping tabs on everything and reporting back. So they're kind of set up on this wild goose chase. But the fortunate thing is they realize it very quickly off the hop, and they're then able to counter and find some actual information and start getting on the actual trail of Jacques. But they're up against some stiff resistance. The Sons of Entropy are everywhere, tracking them and stuff like that. So they keep running into these walls, so to speak. Meanwhile, in Sunnydale, the portals keep opening up, and some real serious creatures start coming through. The Kraken, the Kraken from the sea creature in the first book, he's been causing more devastation. But the most serious threat, the Flying Dutchman, the ship from, I don't know when that was, but the ghost of the Flying Dutchman ship has come through with its captain and all of its crew, and this guy's a real threat. And he is taking people from Sunnydale and making them part of their crew, or killing them if they decide to not join. And Giles actually ends up spying on it and dropping in on the captain of the Flying Dutchman. and actually gets kind of taken captive on the boat for a while before he's able to escape. So, and he goes missing, and the other three are like, where is he? We got to go find him. So it leads all these adventures that they're going through and all these enemies that they're having to face down. But the biggest development is that a portal opens up in the middle of Buffy's home, but Joyce, her mom, is still there. And so Giles is like, you can't stay here, Joyce. Like, I understand you want to stay in your home, but anything could pop through this at any minute if it breaks open again. And what are you going to do? Like, you'll be dead, right? So he's like, come stay with me. So she decides to go live with Giles. So after they get Giles back from the Flying Dutchman, they decide to, it's getting real dark in here. There's a thunderstorm coming. They decide to like just have a dinner at Giles's place and just have like a normal night. And unfortunately, while Giles and the kids are out getting food and flowers and stuff, Joyce is at Giles's condo and somebody knocks on the door. It's a floral delivery service, and they come in. Apparently Buffy has sent flowers to Joyce, which she didn't. It's two Sons of Entropy that dressed up to fool her. Oh, the rain's starting. Hold on. Ooh, she coming down large out there too. Fast and furious all of a sudden. The good thing is there's a stupid bitch in my complex who keeps her window open all the time. And it's like, nah, 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 nah. That's all you hear from this bitch. All you hear. 2 a.m. last night. I'm trying to sleep. I prayed for her to move over the winter, but it didn't work out. Anyways, where were we? Oh yeah, so Joyce ends up getting kidnapped by the Sons of Entropy, and they're basically holding her as a bargaining chip to get Buffy to come back and basically trade Joyce's life for the child, the heir that's going to be the gatekeeper, the new gatekeeper, right? But the joke's kind of on them because they don't have the kid yet, and Buffy isn't just going to let that happen, sort of thing. She'll find a way. But eventually, over in Europe, Buffy and Oz and Angel finally ferret out where the leader of the Sons of Entropy, his name is Il Maestro, where his home base is in Italy. And spoiler alert, Il Maestro is actually Fulcanelli, who was that Italian sorcerer from hundreds of years ago, how this whole lineage of gatekeeper versus Fulcanelli kind of came from in the first place, right? So they find his home base, they infiltrate it, they run into some issues, but eventually they escape and find out that they don't have the heir to the gatekeeper house with them. They're trying to obtain, the reason that the Sons of Entropy are attacking the gatekeeper's house so bad is they want the Spear of Longinus, which is, if you hold this spear, you cannot be defeated in battle. So they want this to trade for the kid, because who has the kid? Spike and Drusilla. That's who has the kid. So there's all these people that come into play here. So it's always fun to have Spike and Drew in a story, and they definitely make it worth the while, right? So yeah, so in the end, Buffy's able to like talk some sense into Spike, saying, you're not getting the spear, they don't have it. And if you don't give us the kid, hell on earth is going to begin. So what the fuck are you going to do, Spike? So they get the kid. And so when the book ends, Buffy, with her friends and the kid, are going to try and take the ghost roads to get back to the mansion in Boston to get the gatekeeper, his heir there, so that everything can be sealed up and set to rights. But the ghost roads actually kick them out in Sunnydale. And they meet up immediately with Giles, and he's like, what the hell are you guys doing here? Like, you got to go to Boston. And they were like, yeah, we're trying to, but the ghost roads kicked us out here, and it's filled with monsters and shit anyways. And then Giles fills them in on the bad news. They got attacked in Sunnydale, and Xander got shot by, I think it was one of the Sons of Entropy shot him, and he looks like he's going to die. So Cordelia and Willow ended up taking Xander onto the ghost roads. I can't remember how they finagled their way onto it because, well, Willow's kind of touched by the supernatural being a witch, but Xander and Cordy aren't. So I can't remember how they did it, but they finagled themselves to get onto the ghost roads so that they could go to the mansion in Boston, put Xander into the thing that the gatekeeper uses to replenish himself, which has been told to bring people back from the dead. So, and that's kind of how the book ends. It's on a big, Empire Strikes Back kind of cliffhanger, right? Xander's dying or dead, and they have a chance to bring him back, but it could easily be squashed if they get interference run on them. And then Buffy and her crew, who desperately need to get Jacques back to Boston, get dumped out in Sunnydale and can't use the ghost roads anymore because they're getting too clogged with monsters, so they got to find some fucking way to get him to Boston in a fast manner. It's not going to work out, right? So we'll see what happens in the third book. How are they going to get out of this pickle? Next up, Firefly, Aim to Misbehave. I'm going to turn some lights on just a sec. This is bullshit. This weather's bullshit. It was so hot today, and then it just ends in a fucking thunderstorm. Maybe that'll help. That's the second time I've dropped this book, but it's in good shape still. Anyways, there's the Buffy book, and that was from 1999, FYI, just in case the lighting wasn't good enough. And there's Firefly, Aim to Misbehave, from last year, 2025. So this Firefly book is the 9th book in the expanded Firefly universe of novels, and they end up on the planet of Brome, which doesn't really have much going on for it other than they have a lot of grass. So they make like grass crafts and stuff out of it. That's kind of their biggest thing. They also have I think an oil refinery or something like that, a fuel refinery. So there's really not much going on Brome. It's kind of a dead world. But their adventures led them there, and they're almost out of fuel for the ship, for Serenity. So they're kind of stranded there. They need to find a job on the planet to be able to get some fuel, get back up into the great black nether, and find their next job. One of the problems too is that the last job they did for a guy who they've had many run-ins with before, they were supposed to get paid for a job they did for him, but instead of paying them in credits, he paid them in these rare, valuable geese that they now have on Serenity, causing all sorts of problem. River loves them, and she has quite a relationship with them throughout the novel, but it does them no good in the meantime, right? So they end up hitting the town and trying to figure out, approaching people. We can do this kind of work, whatever, like anything you got for us. But the people there are very kind of, and there seems to be something going on. So they keep getting these rumors about at the fuel refinery, the working conditions aren't great, and they're starting to organize to kind of basically strike or demonstrate or whatever that they're not going to put up with this shit anymore. They get low wages, long hours, it's unsafe, that sort of thing. So it's really quite a problem. Soon enough, they discover that the boss, I guess, at the refinery is a guy named Lyle Horn. And as soon as Book, the shepherd, finds out about that, it's like, oh. So there's some excerpts of like past events that have gone on, and it's between Lyle Horn and Book and the past that they used to run together in. So throughout the novel, there's some flashbacks to that and some insights during the present situation as well. That gives us a little more information on Shepherd Book, because he is that mysterious character who, he's a holy man, but he has a violent past, but nobody knows what it is. So that's a running thing. That's a running thing throughout the book is in Mal's kind of distrust of Book, because he doesn't trust preachers, and he knows that Book has a violent past, and he won't say anything about it. So Mal has this real kind of distrust towards Book. And that issue is kind of addressed in little bits throughout the story as well. But the main part of the story is that they look into this Lyle Horn guy and the refinery situation, and he actually comes to them offering them a job, but it's not to like work in the refinery or anything like that. Basically, he's had some people go missing, some people kidnapped that work at his refinery, and he says it's the governess that runs the planet that has taken them. But Mal's like, well, why? And so I can't remember exactly what he says, but there's this big mystery on why people would be being kidnapped like that. So a plan is hatched where it's going to be a three-pronged attack. Mal and Book, I believe it is, are going to invade the governess's compound while laying low, go to find these people that have been kidnapped and bring them back. In the meantime, Simon and Inara are going to pose as a wealthy couple who are thinking of investing or donating to the governess's. She's supposed to be some sort of philanthropical philanthropy, whatever the other version of that word is, in charity and that kind of stuff. They're thinking of donating to her, so they kind of go to her compound and have a meeting with her to distract her from Mal and Book rescuing these people. And in the meantime, Jane, his eye got injured, so he only has an eye patch on. So Mal's like, just sit this one out. You can't see properly. You're gonna distract Lyle Horn and see what you can learn about him in the meantime while we're pulling this off, right? So in the end, a whole bunch of action ensues, and spoiler alert if you want to read it and you don't want to know what happens. Essentially, Lyle Horn's a con man, but so is the governess, and they've been working in cahoots, playing this situation off against each other to keep everybody off balance, all the people on Brome, and the governess is getting people to donate to her thing, and she's not doing anything with the money. She's not helping anybody. They're just keeping all the money, and eventually they'll blow the pop stand and move on to the next planet, sort of thing, right? So that's when the crew of the Firefly, along with the people they rescued from the governess's compound and their family, put into effect this final plan to kind of catch Lyle and the governess in their own web of lies and nonsense, and bring them to justice, and ultimately get some fuel so they can get the fuck out of there, right? So it was a good story. It wasn't my favorite of all the Firefly stories so far. They've all been good, but this one's probably lower on the list of my favorite stories. But again, if you like Firefly and you want to read the books, it's still a good story. It's just not one of my favorites so far, but definitely an interesting read. And any time spent with the crew of Firefly is time well spent, right? All right, next up, a TV show, an amazing TV show from back in 2019, which I originally started watching when it first came out, and then got distracted, and then kind of forgot about it, and then just recently went, holy fuck, I never finished that. Let's do that. The series in question is called The Dark Crystal: Age of Resistance. So, if you don't know The Dark Crystal, you probably fucking should. It was a movie. So I'm talking about the movie now. The Dark Crystal movie was released in 1982, I believe, and it was done by Jim Henson. You know, the guy that invented the Muppets and the big puppet guy, right? It was a dark, crazy kind of movie that me and my cousins and my good family friends, Simon, that comes over for games, and I go over to his house for games. As kids, the five of us would watch that movie fairly regularly. Such a really, really cool movie, all done with like puppets and guys in suits, and then the whole, like, all the sets and stuff are all like handmade, like no CGI, no nothing, just pure talent of the people that can create these characters in these sets, and then bring them all to life and put them on screen in such an amazing manner. So this TV show, The Age of Resistance, is a prequel to the movie and shows kind of how they got to the point they did when the Dark Crystal movie started. So it's 10 episodes, and basically the world we're dealing with is called Thra, and it's a very lush, alive world with plants and trees and all sorts of critters. The main species on Thra are called gelflings. They're humanoid, but they also look a little animalistic in certain ways, and they're short. And there's all these different tribes of them that live in different areas of Thra. But at some point long ago, a species called the Skeksis arrived. Now, the Skeksis are fucking sick. They look so cool. They're these big, way taller than... The Gelflings are probably like, you know, half my height, maybe 3 feet, maybe 4 at the most. Whereas the Skeksis are probably, would even be higher than me. They'd probably be 6-7 feet, right? And they're very bird-like. You know, their heads kind of look like birds with beaks and stuff. Like, they're very interesting looking creatures, and they're kind of freaky. I remember as a kid, the Skeksis in the Dark Crystal movie, I was like, whew, like, God, it's kind of terrifying, right? So at some point a long time ago, the Skeksis arrived on Thra, and Mother Ogma, who is a creature that has no other equal on Thra. There's no other creature like her. You got to see her to believe her. She's kind of the mystical keeper of Thra, and she grants the Skeksis the Crystal of Truth, which is a very important artifact on Thra, which gives a lot of power. So Ogma was like, I need to go searching in the stars. So she basically goes in hibernation, searching through the universe for truth and whatever. And in her haste to do that, she grants the Crystal of Truth to the Skeksis for them to protect and rule over while she is off in this kind of catatonic state, right? However, the Skeksis are not a noble species, and they manipulate the Crystal of Truth into giving them power and sustaining. The Skeksis are paranoid about dying. They don't want to die, so they corrupt the Crystal of Truth to help them extend their lives and live longer. And eventually the crystal gets taxed so much it stops working, and the darkening has started. So this purple substance that comes out of the crystal, it's been tainted, and it spreads throughout the land and starts to corrupt things, right? But the Skeksis are paranoid because they're like, fuck, it no longer works anymore. Like, what are we going to do to keep living forever, right? So meanwhile, the Gelflings have accepted the Skeksis as their overlords, and they think they're these great benevolent beings, but nothing could be further from the truth, right? So the scientist for the Skeksis comes up with an idea, and they end up taking captive one of the Gelflings who is a guard in their palace, and they hook her up to this machine that the scientist makes, and basically hooked up to the crystal and hooked up to the Gelfling, it basically sucks the essence out of her and destroys the Gelfling, and the Skeksis are left with like a little vial of this Gelfling's essence, and they drink it, and it helps preserve their life. So they now have their new way of staying alive, right? Not a great scenario for the Gelflings. So this Gelfling, that the first one to die, her name is Mira, and her boyfriend also works as a palace guard, and he sees this happen. His name is Rian, and he fucking gets the hell out of there after a bit of fanfare and is going to spread the word. Like, the Skeksis are not who we thought they were. Like, they are evil. This is what they've done. But anywhere he goes, nobody wants to hear about it. The only person that believes him is his friend that also works at the palace. And the Gelflings are able to do this thing where they can touch hands, and I think it's called a dream meld or something like that. And they can replay events in their mind to show it to the other person. So this guy's like, holy fuck, you're right. Like, that's insanity, right? But whenever they go to the other tribes or try to spread it throughout the land, nobody's buying it. They're like, fucking Rian, you're just causing problems. Like, the Skeksis are masters, like, whatever. Meanwhile, there's 2 other Gelflings that have been set on missions. So there's a Gelfling named Bria, who is a daughter of the I forget what the rulers of each Gelfling clan are called. They're like the Majra or something like that. She's one of this leader's daughters in this clan, but she's always been a little out there, and she finds a symbol that gets her to thinking, and she thinks it has something to do with the Skeksis, and she doesn't quite trust them like everybody else does. So she goes on a journey to try and figure out what this is, and even goes to this mystical clan of of gelflings that are like seers and stuff like that. But the guy she goes to see is like sees what she's looking at, the symbol, and is like, ooh. So then you can see he does something to her drink. But then she notices this and then switches their drinks before they drink. So it's some sort of like forgetful potion. So he ends up drinking it and he's like, oh, I don't know who I am. And meanwhile, Bria's like, yeah, something's up. He didn't want to explain that. So she eventually gets to the bottom of it, which leads her to a secret chamber under the throne of her clan, where she sees the true nature of the Gelfling clans and their relation to the Skeksis and everything, and even awakens some sort of stone guardian that ends up becoming one of their allies. So the truth is revealed to her, just like it is with Rianne. And then the other Gelfling is a girl named Deet, and she lives in a clan of Gelflings that live under the ground. So going up to the top side is really big deal for her. Like their eyes, they're like, oh, fuck. And she has been sent by a vision from the tree of something to go and do something. I can't remember exactly what it is, but it's all in relation to the Skeksis being evil and that evil needing to be vanquished. So you get these three main Gelflings that eventually, of course, their paths all cross. They come together. They form a friendship. They go through lots of bullshit, and eventually, eventually they do succeed in spreading the word, because they get caught, they get taken captive by the Skeksis, they escape, and during all this process, the truth really is revealed, because the Skeksis actually journey out from the palace from time to time to go visit some of the Gelfling clans, and the Gelflings can kind of see firsthand what assholes they actually are, and start to believe all the things that they're doing. So then it all culminates in a final battle at one of the Gelfling clans called Stone in the Wood, I think it is, where the Gelflings are forced into a final confrontation with the Skeksis in order to drive them away and take their planet back over, sort of thing, right? Now, there's no definitive conclusion to the series, because apparently the series did well, but it was not renewed for a second season. So we do get a bit of closure in terms of the Gelflings, again, spoiler alert, getting a one-up on the Skeksis and driving them back to the palace, and now the truth has been revealed, so nobody's going to take these fuckers seriously, right? But we don't get it kind of a right up to the Dark Crystal movie kind of lead-in sort of thing, right? So it's too bad. Like, it's just like the Firefly TV series. Like, it had a huge following. People love that show. They cancel it after one season. Like, fuck. Same thing. Dark Crystal Age of Resistance does great. Yeah, why would we do a second season? It only did really well, right? Fuck. But a great series. It's really cool to see them, like I said, bring these puppets and guys in suits to life. And then, like I said, all the little creatures that are handmade that may be on screen for like 1.5 seconds. And you could see the amount of work that would have gone into making a little thing like that, let alone the whole fucking place, right? It's just amazing. I love that kind of stuff. And what I liked most about this one was, in the Dark Crystal movie, the Skeksis, you don't really see them in that frantic of action, right? They just kind of putter along and whatever, and they don't really get up to much action. But in this one, you get to see them actually move around a bit. And there's one Skeksi called the Hunter, and we see him. He's crazy. He's running, he's jumping through trees and whatever, and chasing down Rianne and fighting, and so they really went above and beyond with this series in terms of like bringing that in those characters in that environment to even more life than they were able to 30 something years ago, whatever it is now, right? So awesome series. It's different, it's weird, but it's awesome weird. So if you want to take a chance on something you might not like, but if you do like it, you'll probably love it, Dark Crystal is where it's at. And I'm pretty sure I have reviewed the Dark Crystal movie on my channel. I'll try and find if I can somehow. It would have been years ago, like it would have been a long time ago. But if I can find it, I'll post a link to that video in this so you can see that as well if you're interested. But if I can't find it, I can't find it. But I'm gonna watch the Dark Crystal movie sometime this summer again, just since I'm fresh off the TV series. just because I remember the Dark Crystal, but I don't remember all the specifics, right? So I want to see how that show leads into the movie and how the whole thing flows together, right? I think that'll be a fun summer project. So, but anyways, awesome for your watching pleasure. Now, we'll finish with the 2 games. This first one was originally released in 2016. I downloaded it on my PS5 about a month ago, maybe a few weeks ago, because it went on sale. It went from $20 down to $2, and I was like, yes, please. And it did not disappoint. I would have been fine buying it at $20, but even better at $2, because this game was fucking awesome. And it is called Mother Russia Bleeds. So this game is done in a side-scrolling, very pixelated style. So once again, a newer game trying to look like an older game. I'm all for it. And you can play with from 1 to 4 players. It supports 4 players. And the story is, it's almost like an alternative universe of Russia in the 1980s. The Russian mafia, which I believe is called the Bratva, they talk about the Bratva a lot in this game, are the ones who are in charge of running Russia. And basically they call the shots, and the government just goes in line with them and works with them, sort of thing. And so obviously you would assume that with the mafia running a country, things aren't going to be good for the common people, right? And they're not. So the 4 characters that you can play with are the protagonists in this game, and they are, I like to play with Sergei. There was also Boris, I think Ivan maybe, and then Natasha. So those are the 4 characters you can play with. They're basically, they're not street dwellers, but they're just kind of like low-ranking people, and they hang out with this guy Mikhail, who organizes these fights in the street for them to participate in. So they go and they take on a bunch of like homeless gutter snipes in contests, and people watch, and I think they bet money and stuff and whatever. It's a strange kind of story. So then one time, the time Mikhail organizes one of these fights, and so that's how you start the game. You're doing this fight in this big melee. Suddenly the government forces arrive and cart you all away. And a month passes, and you wake up in this cell, and you see footage of them being experimented on over the course of that month. They keep having this drug injected into them. Eventually they're able to escape, and they traipse their way through this lab where this drug is prevalent, and it's called Necro. And it gives them super strength and stuff like that, but it also causes these hallucinations. So they have these hallucinations where they see this, it's almost like a big giant beating heart or brain or something with all these like fleshy tendrils shooting off. And then over time, a mysterious being is kind of sitting on the heart and antagonizing them. And after every time they have a hallucination in the game, they puke. Like the Necro's not doing them any favors, right? So they kind of traipse through this lab, they escape. Above them is a prison. They get through that. They get out onto the streets. They eventually meet up with a guy named Vlad, who was kind of friends but friendly rivals with Mikhail. Mikhail just kind of went along with what was happening in Russia, and he organized his fights, and he just got by, sort of thing. Whereas Vlad he's a pacifist, but he saw the problem with the country and he wanted to change things. So he was talking about like doing demonstrations and blah, blah, blah. So that was, when you meet up with Vlad, like that's kind of what he's wanting to do. He's taking a bunch of people on a train. They want to do a protest and a demonstration to let people know that we're not happy with the way this country is going. This isn't the way it should be, that sort of thing. And you kind of escort them along the way, but of course it turns into violence, and you part ways with Vlad because you want to take the fight. You get wind that Mikhail is in a certain area, so you go after Mikhail because you want to talk to him after what happened. And you eventually meet up with him, and he's now working for the government stooges that are working for the mafia. And he's like, guys, I'm missing my arm. I did that because I sacrificed my arm so that I could talk to you guys one more time and tell you to just stop the fighting, just go along with things, whatever. And you're like, yeah, no, let us in, Mikhail. He's like, fine. So you finally, you're making your way towards the end of the game. You're infiltrating the government buildings, the mafia. You're beating up the big bosses and stuff like that. And eventually Mikhail kills himself because he's like, I can't watch what you monsters have become and what's gonna happen to me. They're gonna kill me. And he, like, this game was fucking nuts. There's so much blood and violence and stuff. And then eventually, of course, you take down the final boss, but then you also have to deal with the thing in your hallucination, the creature that spawns out of this big fleshy heart brain thing, right? Amazing game. Again, these games I've been playing lately that are newer games that look like older games, they've all been very short, but I'm okay with that. That's fine. As long as the game's awesome, I don't care if it's short. And this was another perfect example of that. And the game was so different compared to other brawlers. Like the story was so different. The violence was insane, and the sexuality in it as well. Like there's one time you're going through this I don't know what it was, some sort of, it looks like a casino or a fucking gambling den or something, and there's these people in cages dancing, and one of them's a dude, and he's just flinging his wiener around doing the fucking helicopter. And then you walk in on one of the mafia bosses or the government bosses, and he's fucking banging this chick from behind. Like, it's crazy. It's all cartoon pixelated, but you can still see exactly what's happening, right? Like, it was just one of the most different types of games of that genre that I have played. And my buddy Simon enjoyed it just as much as I did. We had so much fun, and we just laughed the whole time through this game. It is really worth a play. And I think the regular price, at least here in Canada, is $19.99. But like I said, they dropped it down on sale to $2 one time, and that's what I got it at. But buying this game at $20, knowing how good it is, I would have no problems. I mean, I'm glad I got it for $2, but if I had to pay $20 for it, that wouldn't have been a problem, right? Because it is that damn good. So, last up, an awesome game from an awesome series released in 2025, Doom, The Dark Ages. This series is so fucking good. I remember the original Doom. I had it on my PC and played it a lot when I was at university. And my roommates would come in the middle of the night when I was asleep and play and wake me up, and they'd be all fucking guard and smoking darts. And I just love that original Doom game. And then I didn't keep up with the Doom releases over the years because, I had an NES and a Super Nintendo. They didn't release Doom on those games as far as I know. Actually, I think they may have on... No, maybe not. Maybe not. I've heard enough of those. Yeah, we get it. Thunderstorm. Blah. So, a while back, probably... this is probably 5 years ago or so. Right kind of on the back half of COVID, I rediscovered my love for Doom when I think Eternal must have come out. So then I went back and I got all the other Dooms. I think I'm only missing one, but I got like Doom and Doom 2 and Doom 64 all on the Switch, downloaded on the Switch. Then I got Doom 3 on the PS3, and then obviously Doom Eternal. And then just the one called Doom, but a newer Doom on the PS4. I had that one. So I just went back and I played through them all in a row, and it was fucking awesome. Like, these games are so good. And this newest Doom game is not an exception to the rule. It was also very awesome. And it takes place before, I don't know if before all of the other Doom games or somewhere, but it's called the Dark Ages for a reason. So it's the Doomslayer before the gates of hell had opened on Earth and on Mars, that sort of thing. So basically, oh fuck, I forget what's the name of the planet? Arden or something like that, or I can't remember. But basically, this evil demon named Prince Azrak is after this artifact called the heart of the heart of whatever the land is called that this thing starts out on. I forget the name of the land. It's supposed to be this powerful artifact or talisman or something like that. So this Prince Azrak guy is after it. And the sentinels of this planet combined with the makers are combining their forces to repel Prince Azrak. And the makers have in their possession the Doomslayer. Now, he is basically kept in containment until he is released. And the leader of the makers, the Creed Maker or whatever his name is, has like kind of like almost like a restraining bolt from Star Wars on a droid. Like he has this tether on the Doomslayer that kind of bends him to his will, so he doesn't have this free kind of thought and freedom to do whatever he wants sort of thing. So they only release the Slayer when he's kind of needed, right? So that's what happens. Like the makers and the sentinels are trying to fight off Azrak and his forces to not give them the heart of whatever. And so they're forced to release the Doomslayer, and he goes into battle. And as the story evolves, Prince Azrak eventually gets his hand on the heart, but it's empty. So he's like, fuck. And we eventually see, I forget her name. There's a girl in the Sentinels forces that's a higher up, Thera, I think her name is. And she ends up empowering the Slayer with some sort of thing. And Azrak sees this happening and is like, oh my God, she's the heart. It's not an artifact, it's a person. So he's then going after her sort of thing, right? So then you have to shift your focus on trying to get Thera back from Azrak and rescue her sort of thing. And so that's what the sequence of the game all leads up for you, obviously having this final confrontation with Azrak and kicking his ass, getting Thera back and setting the land to rights. And along the way, you rip the tether out and gain your freedom. Gah! And you also become dead and become zombified at one point and crawl out of the fucking swamps. It's really, the story's fucking all over the place, but in a good way. It was amazing. It's such a good game. And it's a little different in a couple of ways. I think you have more melee. Oh, here comes the rain again. I think you have more melee options in this game than you normally have. Don't quote me, but you have like a ball and chain kind of thing. You know, I forget what those are called. Big steel ball with the spikes on it. Gah! That was my favorite one. Then you have a big mace, and then you have something else as well. I forget if it's just your shield that you use or something else. But you have a few different melee options. And then you have obviously tons of weapons, which they always have in Doom. And then you can upgrade them all using the resources that you find during the level, the gold, the rubies, the wraith stones. There's tons of stuff to look out for in each level, but it's really good because on the map level, on the map screen of each level, like if you bring it up, it'll show you on the right hand side, like you've collected this much gold out of this much total gold. And same thing for rubies, wraith stones, collectibles, secrets, toys. Like there's all these things you can collect that do various things for you, but it's very easy to know what you're missing, and then everything shows up on the map once you've revealed it on the map sort of thing. So it's also easy to revisit levels and go try and find these missing items that you've got, right? And I do recommend going back and doing that just to beef yourself up as much as possible, because it'll just make that final fight so much easier. And also you get trophies. So I'm a trophy whore, so I like my trophies. And then, so it's got very similar mechanics in terms of the weapons and everything and the upgrades and stuff, but a little bit different. It's a little bit of variation from past Doom games, which is kind of nice. But the biggest difference is that there's a couple of other ways to play in this game, let's say. In some levels, you climb on the back of this big-ass dragon that has all this tech attached to it, and you actually fly through some of the levels and do some attacking and some exploring with it. Now, there's no levels that are totally dragon levels. You will get off of him and actually go on foot like you would in a regular level. But these dragon flying sequences do show up fairly regularly and add kind of a new dimension to the game. But the coolest, the dragon was really cool, but my favorite is, you remember the Pacific Rim movies, and they built the giant robots to fight the kaijus, you know, Gypsy Danger. You get to board a suit like that, this like 30 stories tall, and tromp through the land and then fight these Titan fucking monsters and stuff. Awesome. It's so cool. Some levels I think you're solely in the suit, and other levels I think you do get out and go on foot like you would in regular levels. Don't quote me on that, but I think that's the case. But a couple of really different looks for a Doom game that they haven't had before, right? So um, I had so much fun playing this game. It was one of those games that you play for longer than you want to each time because you're having so much fun, and you find excuses to get through your other games quicker so that you can get back to Doom, right? Which I did a few times. And then some games it's fun to go back and flesh out the levels, like Lego games. I love going back and 100%ing everything. But other games aren't so exciting. It's like, meh, seems like too much work, seems too hard. Is it even worth it, right? Doom does a really good job of making you want to go back and collecting everything. Not just because it's fun to re-experience the levels, but because it's worth it for you to become that powerful. Because I went up right to the last two levels and then went back and redid them all and got all my stuff so that for those last two levels, I was going to be beefed up as much as I could and hopefully experience as little frustration in beating the final bosses as I could, sort of thing, right? So, but yeah, I just can't say enough about that game. Both games I reviewed in this one, amazing. Very different, but in every aspect of each game, amazing for what they are, sort of thing, right? So everything in this review is top notch, right? I mean, like I said, the Firefly book wasn't my favorite of all the Firefly books that I've read, but an amazing TV show that should have gone for multiple seasons, not just the one it did, with a fantastic cast, an awesome premise, great effects, that Joss Whedon vibe to it, right? It's just awesome. Um, Buffy the Vampire Slayer, again, another Joss Whedon property that is just fucking outstanding, and this trilogy has been awesome. And then Dark Crystal, Age of Resistance, one of the best shows I've watched in a long time. And then, of course, these two games. This is a really fucking serious review, and I'm glad you were there to share it with me. I'll get working on my next 5 things, and I'll be back ASAP. That's a fucking promise. Peace.
Meow.